definitely. And we really, really, funny thing happened here. We were on mute. Thank you so much to our guest host. It's okay. We said that was going to happen. So we'll start over again. Hello, everyone. Those are the bloopers. You get a little funniness
Yes.
to start. Good evening. We are the Turner team, Kimberly Turner
and Denise Turner.
And we are a mother and daughter team, and we just really love what we do. You know, working with the public and being able to present these type of webinars and in-person seminars so that we can teach and empower our community to know that you too can become a homeowner as well as a commercial property owner.
Yes, and it's so exciting because you know what? We are reaching more and more people each day, and the information and the people that are willing to come on and share with you their knowledge to help you to achieve your goals.
Yes.
We're just so excited, so grateful.
This is going to be a really great one, you guys. You know, we specialize in residential and commercial real estate, and we really do enjoy working with our various business partners, and one especially.
Yes, very special.
Yes. Andy House with Guaranteed Rate Affinity and his beautiful business development manager, Heather Mayfield.
Wait a minute. Intelligent.
Yes. Okay. Intelligent. And I'm telling you, when there is something to be done, Andy knows exactly what to do. And we can't wait to introduce you to him here shortly. And so that he can tell you all about himself and Heather Mayfield as well. You know, we don't just work in the state of Missouri, do we?
No, we don't. Tell our viewers.
You know, we work nationwide, in state and out of state with our various top realtor business partners. And we really enjoy helping clients move from St. Louis, Missouri, or greater metropolitan area to Texas, New York, Illinois, Chicago, Illinois, Alabama, and everywhere else in between, all 50 states. So if you're tuning in from out of state, that's okay. This information is for you too. And we're really excited to have you here. This is a nationwide broadcast with the Turner team. And today we are focusing on keys to home ownership. And so when we're going to talk about today is from a lender's point of view as to how you can buy a home. And we're focusing on residential today. Of course, every month we have various webinars and in-person seminars that focus on either residential or commercial real estate. And as we mentioned, Andy House and Heather Mayfield, they specialize in residential lending. So you're going to get the ins and outs of all those questions, those dire questions you've had to ask your lender. You can ask them today. So go ahead and write your questions in the comment box, in the chat box, and we'll make sure that we get to it as we go along.
Yes.
Now,
I just want to say one more time, these two people are great individuals. They will go the extra mile. They will do whatever it takes to get the job done and to close the deal. That's why we're just so excited to have them on tonight to share their information with us.
That's right. And listen, we don't want to be selfish or leave anyone out. So go ahead and push that share button, like our business page, as well as share it out to others so that they too can participate tonight and be able to learn about how they can become a homeowner as well. So without further ado,
keys to home ownership.
All right. Andy House and Heather Mayfield.
Hello.
Welcome. We're so excited to have the two of you.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for that very nice introduction and welcome. I am Andy House. I work for Guaranteed Rate Affinity as Vice President of Mortgage. Heather is my business development manager, and I've been with this company for about 5 years, and you know, moving forward.
Yes.
Looking to help as many people as possible.
That's right. That's right. And he does. And he does. And Heather, she is a dynamic as well in her own right. You know, as the business development manager for Andy House and Guaranteed Rate Affinity, you are really the person who we say, communicate, call Heather, ask Heather. And you just have such a vibrant nature about yourself, just like Andy, but you're the introduction from our client to Andy. And we really appreciate you as well.
Well, we appreciate
so
you.
very
So
much.
thank you. Yes, thank
Yes,
you.
yes, yes. And so, you know, tonight, if if you haven't already registered, make sure you do. You can see the QR code on the screen as well as like our page, because we are doing a raffle and you can win a $25 gift card and as many seminars per month that you register for, as well as liking our business page, you'll be able to enter into that raffle. So 3 seminars you register for and of course participate in, 3 seminars and 3 raffle entries you have. All right. So, Andy, we are excited to talk about home ownership, keys to home ownership. You know, when we started working in our partnership with you, we first learned early on how knowledgeable and how much of an expert you are when it comes to lending. You know, when our clients are ready to get their pre-approval, our last webinar was all about preparing to buy your home and what you need to do once you come to the Turner team and we get you started on your journey. We connect you with your free consultant who will work with you to get your credit in order and all the things financially, so that then now we can send you to our preferred lender. And when we send our clients to you, Andy, it's at that time that they are ready to be pre-approved. But talk to our viewers. Let them know, what does it mean to be pre-approved, and what does someone need to have as their financial background in order to be pre-approved for a loan, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, and so great question. This doesn't have to be a scary process to start out with. I often talk to people who will come to me and scared. They're not sure where they're at. They're not sure what their credit looks like, or even where to begin. And so with that, Heather and I will guide them in that process to start where they need to go. You know, the first steps would be to get some information from the borrower. Most of the time, it's not a lot of information, but it's key information that will help us start that journey. That, you know, first thing is we're going to pull credit. We're going to see where you're at, figure out ways that, you know, to help you if you need to be something changed or get something worked on. But otherwise, we'll start there. We typically need to know the last 2 years of employment history, where you've lived at the last couple of years, and you know, savings accounts, checking account information. Now, we don't have to have exact information. We don't need your account numbers. We don't need exact balances to the penny, but we need to have a pretty good, you know, gauge on where you're at as far as dollars go, how much you make per year. Are you hourly? Are you salary? Do you work on commission, or, you know, self-employed even? So there's a lot of different questions in the employment side of things. Those are the main questions to start out with. And then we kind of, you know, take it from there. We begin again, like I said, pull credit. Sometimes we'd have to do a verification of employment to verify someone's hours if they're close on their debt to income ratios, or, you know, just, you know, kind of take it from there. And those main questions will open up potentially additional questions, or will allow us to move forward with the approval. And then from there, we start talking different types of programs, you know, FHA, conventional, VA. Are you a veteran? So you can qualify for that veterans loan. FHA, how much money do you have down? How much, you know, are you able to maybe get a gift from a family member? We kind of take all of those questions into account. We have first-time homebuyer programs as well, so we're able to use some of those programs to help with down payment or closing costs.
Yes. That is really good information to share as a baseline, as a foundation to understanding what is a pre-approval and why do you need it. And as your realtors, we set you up for success. So that's the first step that we do after you've prepared. The next step is become pre-approved, because now you can write an offer. We can negotiate and we can submit an offer on your behalf for the home that you love. So before we go and see those homes, that's when you're pre-approved.
Yes, and we need that pre-approval to submit an offer. So that's very important.
Yes, very
For the
important to
process.
have and to
Yes,
be
yes.
ready to go. And so, you talked a little bit, Andy, about work history as well as savings. We're going to dive in just a little here, okay? So,
Okay.
work history. Many times we have clients who maybe they have worked a full-time job from 3 years back. They were working a full-time job. Third year, they were working full-time. Second year, they were working full-time. But that last year, right before they called us, they decided to start working part time instead. Now, if they were working full time initially and then switched to part time, how does that work for them to be able to receive a loan?
Yeah, so typically on a situation like that, the part-time income, we're going to want to see a 2-year history of that part-time income, because we need to know how to base that income hourly, because most situations a part-time income job is an hourly job. So we're going to need to get an average of how many hours a week you work over that time period. And so going to from full-time to part-time can be a little bit tricky, because like I said, you have to have that time to show that you've been there for those couple of years so that we can average that income.
That's right. That's right. So, summarizing, you have to have the 2 years, either 2 years of part time or 2 years of full time employment in order to be pre approved.
Correct.
That's
Now
correct. Okay.
there are situations as well where maybe you were working in the, you were in a certain industry, or working in the employment world, and you had a situation come up, a family member gets sick, or you had some illness yourself, and then you took maybe a year or two off for whatever reason, and then you've now come back into the workforce. There are exceptions to that 2-year rule, but you have to show at least a 2-year history of working. So there are some exceptions to that rule, some extenuating circumstances, but as a general, you have to have a work history of at least 2 years.
Yes.
And also, Andy, what about the credit score? What's the credit score minimum and the
So
preferred?
FHA, we can go down to a 580. A VA, we can go to a 580, and then a conventional, we can go to a 620. Now, keep in mind those lower credit scores in the 580 marks; those will need some offsetting, job history. You have to show a stronger job history, or you have to show maybe you have some additional money in the bank to offset the lower credit scores. They can still be done, but they have to have a little bit more strengths to them than, say, somebody who is a 680 or a 700 score.
That's right. That's right. Yes. And, when we're talking about credit scores, it matters because when they're wanting to utilize different programs, which we'll get to here shortly, first time home buyer programs, we're wanting you to have usually at least a 640 or greater. Now, if you're not at that 640, that's okay. Like we mentioned early on, we will help you. We are in it for the long run, and we have free resources where we'll connect you with a consultant to get you to the 640. So then now Andy can look at your history and have you be pre-approved. And part of that pre-approval process that you mentioned, Andy, was savings, right? How
Yep.
much money at minimum would you advise someone save? Now, of course, there are programs that can offset here and there when it comes down to the cost of earnest money, inspection costs, appraisal costs, right? Your closing costs and down payment. But just overall, how much at minimum should someone have saved before they go ahead and ask to be pre approved?
That's kind of a fluid question a little bit because we do have programs where you literally have to have nothing in the bank or a very small, less than 1,000 or maybe 500. There are situations, there are first-time homebuyer programs that require you to have $1,000 of your own funds into the transaction. And then there are some programs that will require reserves. So some may require 1 month reserve or a 2 month reserve of the payment that is for the mortgage after closing. So it's really kind of a fluid question in that, each individual person is different in what their requirements may be. Like I said, we can do as little as zero, or if someone has a 401k, a retirement, those all go towards that amount that you need. Now, I tell people and try to set them up for success, obviously. And so, the more you have in the bank, the better chance you will have of being successful down the road. If something happens or you have a tough time, you want to make sure you've got some reserves there that, a rainy day fund, as they might call it. But
Yes.
overall, I tell people, a few $1,000s is a good start because you're going to have certain things on the real estate side that you have to pay for. You have to, the inspections on ours. The big thing the upfront cost is the appraisal. We need to get the appraisal paid for. Typically, that's going to run you $400 to $450 for a conventional or an FHA, and then $575 for a VA. So you need to have at least those funds in there for the lending process, on top of your earnest money, and then on top of your inspections.
Yes, and I always say more is best.
Right.
So the more you can save, cut back on those Starbucks and McDonald's coffee every morning, and
But the key to
gonna
that
buy
is
a
don't let
home
it
fund.
discourage you. Don't let, because you think you don't have several $1,000s in the bank, don't let that discourage you. We have ways to make it happen, to help you get to where you need to be, because at the end of the day, you're still paying rent.
Yes.
So, if you don't have any money and you can get a payment that's cheaper than a housing payment, and you don't have a lot of money in the bank, I'm sorry, than a rental payment, your housing payment is cheaper, then that's a benefit to you. You can then start accumulating money in the bank because your housing payment is now cheaper.
Yes. And that's so true nowadays. The rent payments are going
sky
high. It's like there's no
Crazy.
limit. I hear horror stories and I'm like, that's more than we're paying for a mortgage.
The kind of home that you could own and build equity.
Yes.
Know?
Another thing I'm curious about, and I'd like for you to share about the debt to income ratio. Could you explain that? It sounds complicated, but it really isn't.
So debt to income ratio is the amount of expenses you have as opposed to the amount of money that you bring in. So when figuring a debt to income ratio, we look at all of your payments, car payments, credit card payments, anything that would show on your credit report. Now, keep in mind what's exempt from that credit report is utilities, cell phone bills, car insurance. That isn't based in that figure. But a debt to income ratio is showing us what percentage of your total gross income, before taxes, before insurance, before anything is taken out of your paycheck, what your actual expenses are equal to. So very common perception or percentages right now for FHA, we can go to 50 to 55% on a debt to income ratio, depending on credit score. VA, we can go to a 55%. Conventional, we can go to a 50%. So what that means is 50% of your income can be towards your home, your car, your credit cards, as opposed to what your total income is. And that, again, that is before we take taxes out.
Yes,
Very good.
And also, credit card. I know, everyone nowadays has at least one or two credit cards. What can you say about that?
Yeah, I mean, credit card debt right now is one of the highest that it's ever been out there. That is, we had at the beginning of the pandemic, the credit card debt was kind of going to a real low, and then as we've come out of the pandemic, credit card debt has started to go up. Credit card debt is like I said, it's becoming a big issue, and so we try to educate the borrower on ways to maybe get that paid down, or there are some ways that you can save some interest by, you don't really want somebody to move something per se at the time of applying for a mortgage, but if you can set them up for success in the future, then we can help them be approved or get them approved down the road.
Yes, yes.
Yes, that's so important because I know a lot of families are using credit, to sustain themselves
Yep.
because, the high cost of living and whatever's gone on during COVID, people are using a lot of credit cards. And um, my thing is, I know you have to, do what it takes, to survive. But if any
Right.
way you can use cash, you know,
Yep.
my thing is use cash if you can't afford it.
That's right.
Hide that credit card
and,
until
and use
unless
your
if
debit card,
use
because
your
this
debit
debit
card.
card is
That's right.
cash. Okay, most
Right.
definitely. And then and prepare. Part of that conversation that we're having with
Mhm.
clients when they call on the first conversation, after we've gone through how are you financially, what is your time frame, when would you like to buy your home. Right. Of course, we specialize in commercial too, but specifically now on residential, your
Residential.
home.
Mhm.
Right. Okay. Well, you'd like to buy your home this year. So let's not do these things.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah. Don't buy the first thing we tell them, don't buy a new car.
Don't do that.
Don't
Don't
don't buy a timeshare
just don't do
because
that.
personally we had someone buy timeshare right
And
right
it's
before
okay because
yeah.
you too will still buy your home, but
Yeah.
don't do that. As well as, don't open up any new credit cards. Don't go ahead and, take out a personal loan or a business loan. And we're going to talk more about those don'ts in another seminar, but just for you right now, just don't go and do those things, okay?
Yes.
Give
Not if
us
you're
a
trying
call.
to buy a home. Yes,
Give
right
us a
now.
call if you're wanting to talk more. And you see there on the screen a QR code where you can schedule a call with the Turner team, and then we will connect you with Guaranteed Rate Affinity's own Andy House and Heather Mayfield. So feel free, we'll put in the chat as well the link to schedule your call. But continuing on with this really interesting and information-filled conversation here with Andy House. So, Andy, so many people have the wrong impression about the market, right? They think, oh my goodness, this market is so crazy. I do not need to buy now. I need to wait and wait it out. We disagree, right? We not only disagree, we strongly disagree.
So wait a minute, Andy. Tell us what you have to say about that.
I agree strongly with you guys. I think that waiting only pushes out the higher prices. I mean, right now, home values are appreciating at a larger clip than in previous, before pandemic times. The thing is they're saying that home values could appreciate another 20 to 25% over the next 2 to 3 years. So you may wait because you think you're going to get a better deal. The problem is that this isn't 2007 and 2008 where we're going to get a bubble and a crash like we did. The main difference is today we approve people based on their income and their assets, whereas before we didn't do that so much. So a true housing bubble or a crash, I don't believe is going to happen right now or in the near future, because the other big statistic is right now, on average, United States homeowners have equity of up to 50 to 58%. That wasn't, something that was happening back when things were slower. They were at 18% equity. So the percentage of equity in homes right now is very high. So people aren't trying to get out of those homes right away, where the in the past they were willing to cut their losses. So there's not going to be really a housing bubble or a housing crash, in my opinion. If
Yeah.
anything, you're missing out on that opportunity to gain that equity in your home if you wait. So the longer you wait, the longer you delay that growth in that of home ownership.
Right. And if you're renting, it's 100% interest.
Yep.
Right? It's 100% interest, as opposed to where the interest rates are now, which are really relatively really good when you compare
Yes.
years previous, right? So we're hovering back and forth from 7s to high 6s, just depending on your financial background currently. But Andy, we have something up our sleeve, don't we? Let's talk a little bit about your buy down program.
Absolutely. What we have is what we call a 2-1 buy down. What that program will do for you is it will allow you to buy your rate down for the short term to keep your payments low, and then it will gradually go up over the first year and then the second year. So on the initial buy down, let's say rates, just for simplicity, are 7% today. With the 2-1 buy down, you would start your first year's payments at 5%. So you would pay your first year's payment at 5%. Once that 12 months is up, your payment would jump to the 6%. Once that 12 months is over, for year 3 through 30, you would continue on at the 7%. Now, what we're hoping to do with this is, we're allowing you to buy the house and basically date the rate. It allows you to keep the lower rate for a short time period, and then once rates come down as they're expected to, you're then able to refinance into that lower rate and keep it there for the long term. So this is one way of getting your rate to a lower amount for the short term, and then while you're waiting for rates to come back down, because rates right now are at the high point. I do believe rates will be down, should be coming down, this year, to where we're figuring on probably in the fives by the time the year is done.
Oh, that's great. That's good news. Good
Yes,
news.
yes.
Yes. So, we always we get excited about our first time home buyers.
Yes.
In fact, one of our youngest
Yes.
was 20 years old. And we were so excited to have him buy his first home. And then I think about a week after he moved in, he turned 21.
Yes.
So I guess he was legal then. But anyway.
And you know what? He was able to receive money back
Yes.
at the closing table.
Yes.
And had $5,000 in equity on day one.
Yes, in his home. But could you tell us something about first time home buyers programs to help our listeners?
Yeah. And what a housewarming party, right? You get to have your 21st birthday and the housewarming party in one.
Yes.
What a great thing. Yeah,
Yes, get the party started.
I do a lot of, well, I do two main programs as far as first time homebuyer programs go. The first one is what they call MHDC, or Missouri Housing Development Commission. They have what's called a first place home loan. Basically, if you have not owned a home in the last 3 years, then you qualify for the program. So again, you don't have to be a true first-time home buyer. You could have owned a home and sold it 5 years ago. You are now, by industry standards, considered a first-time home buyer. MHDC is it's a state program, and it's done through the Missouri Housing Development Commission. They basically give you 3% towards your down payment. Now, you can use it towards down payment or closing cost. If you have some of your own down payment, you can, again, use that towards closing cost. But the program itself is tiered based on how much you make. So there are some income limits involved with that particular program. The state or the metro area of St. Louis, if you're one or two persons, it's $94,900. If you're three or more, it's $109,135. Now, keep in mind, the one thing about that program and those income guidelines is it is household income. So if you are buying a home and your spouse is not on the loan with you, we still have to count the spouse's loan, or I'm sorry, the spouse's income towards the loan. Now, if you're just two single individuals buying a home, and the individual is going to live with you and not be on the loan, then we don't have to count that income for a boyfriend, girlfriend, fiance, whatever it may be. That isn't a requirement. But there are those income limits. There are some sale price limits. The sale price limit in the St. Louis Metro for a one single family home is $349,525. Now, the other program that we do is the St. Louis Housing Partnership. It too will give you set amounts depending on the municipality that you're moving into. It will give you set amounts to use towards down payment and closing costs. St. Louis City, those are $3,500. St. Louis County is $6,000. City of Florissant is $5,000, and then Jefferson County is $5,000. One of the key differences between the St. Louis Home Housing Partnership and MHDC is once the funds run out on the St. Louis Housing Partnership, they are gone for a little while. Whereas MHDC is continuously there. It's there year round. It never goes away. And it's always available to anyone who's a first time buyer. The other key benefit of that program is if you're a veteran, you don't have to be a first time buyer as a veteran to benefit from the MHDC program. And if you have any questions about that, or you need any additional information on that, register there and click the registration button, the QR code, and I'd love to get back to you on that. So, but yeah, first time home buyers, it's a big part of the home buyers right now. And like I said, there's a lot of great programs. If you don't have, the money for down payment and closing costs, it can cover one. And then, there are other ways to accomplish the closing costs to make it work for you.
Yes, yes.
Well, that sounds so great. Because I heard something today, and maybe you want to talk about that as well, because many people do not have that. What is it? 20%
down payment,
down
right?
Payment, and that could be quite a bit.
Yes.
On a $200,000 home, that's $40,000 you have to put down.
And the good thing is that
the
you
good
don't.
thing about it, you don't.
Right.
With the programs that you mentioned, because when you don't have that, there's that mortgage insurance cost that's additional. So I'm just excited because the secretary, Marsha Fudge, for the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. I saw her this morning, and of course, I've got to mention,
of course,
she's a Delta.
My mother said, "Do not oop on the live." I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. She's our
She's our sorority sister.
Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, to be exact. Yes,
just for a station break identification. Anyway,
talking about the PMI. I'm sorry, I got a little excited.
Okay, getting back to Andy with the PMI. Can you tell us about that? Because a lot of people, they budget and then they say, "What is this PMI?"
Yeah, so PMI, or mortgage insurance premium. So private mortgage insurance is PMI. That is typically on your conventional loans, and then you have mortgage insurance premium, which is on your FHA loans. The big issue with that is if you're putting less than 20% down, you typically have to pay a PMI or an MIP, depending on what type of program you do. Basically, what those are is that's simply an insurance policy that if you were to default on the loan, that the bank would get their money some way, somehow through that insurance policy. Now, the one great announcement that was made today from the Department of HUD was that MIP premium, which was 0.85% monthly, is now going down to 0.55%, which means that from the standpoint of affordability, that means you can afford more home now because you're not paying that additional money to that MIP program, FHA's mortgage insurance program. You do FHA, that mortgage insurance, if you put less than 10% down, is for the term of the loan. So you have to pay that for the life of the loan. If you do more than 10% down, you have to pay that for 11 years. Now, on a conventional loan, it's a little bit different. Once you reach an 80% equity mark, that PMI will fall off. There are other ways that you can kind of get that off of there. But once you get to the 80% mark, it typically will fall off automatically. Now, there are things with appraisals that you can get that off of there, or if you want to put additional monies down, or even appreciation at times can help with that, getting rid of that PMI.
Very good.
Oh, excellent.
Yes.
Excellent.
Now, moving right along, Andy, I mean, if you need to take a sip of water or some tea or coffee,
okay.
Go ahead, because you're just spewing out so much great information. We are so excited for all of our viewers just to get this information.
Wait a minute. Did we ask you to get your pad and pens ready? Because you need to take note. And if not, you can always replay this.
Yes, it will be on replay. So whether you're watching now or later, you can find this video on the Turner Team's homepage at Turner Team Realtors on Facebook and at the Turner Team Realtors on YouTube. So you can always watch us on replay.
Yes.
And we can't wait to connect you with Andy House of Guaranteed Rate Affinity. And if you are looking to get more information and connect with us, give us a call. In the chat, we put the link so that you could schedule your call today or later. Just come on back to this video. So moving right along.
Oh, wait a minute. I see student loans.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my gosh. Student loans.
That's a big ticket item.
All of you wonderful people who went ahead and got that 4-year, 6-year professional degrees.
You have an MBA here, Master's in Business Administration, and a practicing attorney with my law degree. So we know.
And loans. Fortunately, mine is paid off. I started earlier. So.
Mine is on the way. But talk to us.
Yes, we need to know about that, Andy.
Student loan. The perception of the big bad student loan. There are a lot of homeowners nowadays that have student loans, or potential homeowners that have student loans, and student loans aren't something that automatically excludes you, even if you have high balances on those student loans. There are, depending on the type of program that you do, whether it's conventional or FHA, we can make those work with student loan payments. Now, if you have a payment and you're currently making a payment monthly, we have to count that payment against you. So if you have, $50,000 in student loans and you're making a $500 a month payment, then we have to count that $500 a month payment against you, especially if it shows on the credit report. Now, there are certain programs within the conventional world that if you are making a zero payment, which is income-based repayment a lot of times, we can count zero against you, even though you have maybe 20, 30, 40, 50, $100,000 in student loans. Or in a lot of situations, for instance, FHA, they typically will require us to charge or count 0.5% against you towards your repayment, as far as qualifying goes, towards that debt to income ratio. So we do have to count something against you if it's there. But a lot of people right now are going through what's called income-based repayment, or their loans are in deferral. Deferral, like I said, we have to count something, but if that loan, after it's out of deferment, your payment is going to be $0 because you're in that income-based repayment program, there are programs where we can count $0 against you, and so that will allow you to purchase more home, because we keep that debt to income ratio lower in that situation.
Yes. Well, that's great news.
It is, because so many young professionals and even older professionals have that question. They want to know, well, can I buy a home? I owe student loans. And now you have the answer. Okay.
Yes, but wait a minute. don't let them go in default.
That's right.
Pay those
Correct.
loans. And
Yeah, and make
also,
sure you pay those loans. If you're not paying those loans, make sure you keep up your paperwork for the income-based repayment, because what
yeah,
happens is a lot of times you have to recertify those student loans based on your income each and every year, and we have people who will forget to do that from time to
yeah,
time, and then you become late on those payments because you're expected to make a certain payment and you're no longer doing that. We do find that from time to time you'll get those late payments on the credit report. So always make sure, check, double check, and sometimes triple check that all of
Yes.
those student loans are uh, are being paid. Because the one thing that is different from student loans than say your credit cards, student loans never go away. They
yeah,
are a federal debt and they are going to stay with you. There is no 7-year rule, and you can't go file a bankruptcy or whatever to get rid of them. Those will be with you forever until you either pay them off, or you keep them into an income-based repayment, or whatever it might be. Always
Yes.
pay those.
yeah.
Always pay them.
Always.
And so many of us, we went to school and now are becoming serial entrepreneurs, right? Maybe we started off in corporate, maybe we didn't. Maybe we jumped right in and we were the trendsetters of today. But I know, and my mother knows, so many millennials, especially, who have various businesses of their own. Can they buy a home too, Andy?
Absolutely. It does get a little trickier when you're self-employed or an entrepreneur, because you have debt basically that is incurred with being that entrepreneur. I shouldn't say debt, expenses is a better word. So
There you go.
if you buy, let's say you're running a company that is a painting company, you have expenses in the way of materials and tools. You may make a certain amount of money on paper. It may show that you make a very high amount, but we have to then take those expenses into account. Now, that doesn't exclude you. That doesn't mean you can't buy a home. But I have people come to me and they go, "Hey, I made, or I have a income of $200,000 last year." Excellent. That is, great. But how much were your expenses for that self-employment or entrepreneurial situation? Well, I wrote off half of my income. Great. $100,000 is a great income. There's still a lot of options to buy there, but it's key that you talk to the right lender and they ask the right questions, because if you don't get that income right, then you're looking for homes that are maybe out of your price range. And then you set yourself up because you've spent money on maybe appraisals, inspections, earnest monies, things like that, that you want to make sure you're not wasting, or just, incorrectly throwing it out the window, or whatever you want to call it. But that is why it's key to talk to a lender who can help you with making sure we have the right income, so that we make sure we give you the right sales price that you can go after, and so that, again, set you up for success so that you can be successful. It's not any reason to say that you can't buy a home, but it does get a little trickier when you're dealing with self-employed type income.
Yes,
That's
yes,
right.
that's right. Well,
I'm
I
glad to hear you can.
yeah,
I mean, we knew that
yes,
already, but yes.
yes, but that's good to know. And also, when someone is pre-approved for a large amount, do they have to spend that?
Absolutely not. I have people who, when they come to me, one of the questions asked is, how much of a home are you looking to purchase? I get a wide variety of answers there. I have the people who go, how much can I buy, or how much can I get approved for? Well, if
Mhm.
I told you you could get approved for a $500,000 house, would you be up for that? No, I want to stay at 200,000. So while you can maybe buy a home that is a lot more than than what you want to be comfortable with, there's no reason to in that situation. If you want a payment of a certain amount, then we'll get you approved so that you can accomplish that payment. But just because you're approved for 500,000 doesn't mean you have to look at a 500,000 or 200,000. You have to go what's ever comfortable for you and your everyday. Do you want to go out with friends? Do you want to,
right?
do you want to take the family to dinner?
Or
Those
go
are
to
all things
Disney
that,
World.
yes, there you go. Go on
My
a nice
favorite place
vacation.
ever.
Those are things that you can do, or things that you have to think about when it comes to a mortgage, because again, you can max out the amount that you can qualify for, but that is going to come from somewhere else. I mean, if you go, hey, I'm going to go to 50% debt to income ratio, you might have to not drive by Starbucks twice a day, or whatever it may be. But if you enjoy the Starbucks, you're going to have to maybe look at a lower priced home. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of wonderful homes in a lot of different price ranges. You just have to find what works best for you.
Yes.
That's right.
And that's true. There are beautiful homes in all price ranges. I mean, we have seen so many homes, and you don't always have to go the maximum.
No.
And you buy what you can afford, as Andy mentioned, and what you can live comfortable with.
Yes.
That's important.
And therefore you can live the life that you've imagined, right? And what we like to say is buy your dream home for this chapter of your life. Right? You don't have to, if it's your first home, you don't have to start out with the 5-bedroom, 4-bath, finished basement, already has a deck house with 2 acres of land. You don't have to. You can if you can afford it.
Yes.
And if you would like to pay that monthly mortgage and all that comes with your monthly payment, but you don't have to. And we will help you strategize so that you are able to utilize your funds in the best manner for yourself. Because of course, a home is one investment, and it's the most important if you ask us, right? For generational wealth. However, you have other investments. Maybe you want to do investment properties, right? Commercial properties that we can help you with.
And saving for your kids' education.
That's right. And or their businesses and things of that nature. So, you just want to plan appropriately, and that's what we're here for. So if you haven't done so already, make sure that you like our page, as well as schedule your call with the Turner team so that we can connect you with Andy House. Andy, you have been phenomenal tonight, just answering so many of the questions that we know our viewers and buyers to be have for their home ownership journey. And we're not done. We're almost there. We're coming up on an hour here, and we want to give you, our viewers, right, an opportunity to ask questions. So if you have any questions, go ahead and write them in the chat, and we will be sure to ask them for you to our wonderful guest, Andy House with Guaranteed Rate Affinity. So our first question we have here, and it's from Angela Williams. And Angela would like to know if she can buy a home if she is retired.
Yeah, thank you, Angela. Absolutely. We count, retirement income, Social Security income, dividend or distributions from your IRAs or 401ks. Those can all be counted as income, just the same as your hourly income or your salary income. I do a lot of business with people with Social Security or even disability pensions. There's a wide variety of set incomes out there that we can definitely do. Again, I've had people who they take a yearly distribution on their IRA, and that we can count those towards income in those situations because those are set distributions and they're getting those. So actually in a lot of situations, those fixed incomes are easier than your hourly incomes because I know how much your check is going to be for Social Security or your pension or whatever it may be each and every month, whereas your hourly income, it could vary month to month. So sometimes they're easier than the traditional income.
Awesome. So the answer is
yes.
Awesome.
You can buy your home.
Okay, so call us, Angela, and we will get you ready. Next, we have a question from Keith. Hello, Keith. We're so happy to have you here this evening, as well as Angela. Keith says, in my day, deferment options helped if you struggled with timely student loan payments. Is that still true or a good option if you're falling behind?
Yes, it is it's a great option because what you don't want to happen is that you are struggling and then you stop making those student loan payments and then those are counted as late payments. If you can
Yeah.
get that student loan put into deferment or forbearance, then that will then shut those late payments off. It's saying that you're no longer going to accumulate late payments because while you're in those programs, again, you're not going to accumulate them. So it's going to help your credit in that regard. Now, what I will say is if you do go into deferment or a forbearance, as stated before, there are some potentially some uh, payment that we have to count against you. But it will stop the clock per se on those late payments and allow you to maybe get back on your feet or whatever the situation may be, or even work with those student loan companies to get a manageable payment for you to where you do get an income based repayment or something. But yeah, it's absolutely best if you can to get those in deferment or forbearance if you're struggling. Always contact the student loan companies to get those. As I tell everybody, they don't, they're not going to call you per se and go, hey, it looks like you're struggling, can we help out? No, they want you to call them and start that process. And most of the time, they're willing to talk to you and willing to work with you. You just have to initiate the call.
Yes.
And I always tell people, don't be afraid. Take action. Because sometimes people are like a deer in the headlights, when they get overwhelmed
Yes.
making payments. And the best solution is to go ahead, call, and find out, can I get this in deferment? What can I do so I can continue to pay and stay in good standing with my student loans? Well,
Yes.
Andy, this has really been a very informative evening with you, and I hope our listeners have gathered bits of information
And large chunks.
and large chunks of information
Yes.
as well. But we have come to the end of our show.
Yes.
And I just want to know, before we close out, Andy, is there anything else? I know you've told us so much, but is there anything else that you would like to share?
The most of the information that we went over tonight, we kind of just scratched the surface. We only have so much time, and we could sit here for hours and
Yeah.
discuss in depth all of these things. But if you want more information, if you want to get more information on a particular program, maybe it's something I haven't mentioned to you. Feel free to call or register, and that's the easiest way. If you register, we'll get back to you with those calls or those questions, whether but yeah, I mean, there is so much more in depth to talk about here, but I'm giving you kind of a brief overview of the majority of everything. But you know credit is complicated. There are some ways to get out of certain situations or help yourself in certain situations. And I can't tell you the number of times that people come to me and think there's no way that they can be approved. And to find out, within a few hours that, hey, you're approved to buy your first home. And the excitement there is awesome. I mean, that's why we do this job, is because we love to see the excitement on the customers' faces at the end of the day, and know that they are starting a journey of home ownership where they're building wealth through that home ownership. So let us know. We'd be more than happy to help you, and we'd love to help with any questions you have, or even if you're not ready to buy right now. Let's say you're going to be a year out or 2 years out and you just want to know where you stand and things to do to get there. Never hesitate to let us know. We're here to help, whether it's 2 months, 2 years, or 5 years.
That's right.
Yes. And Andy, one thing that we really are we're so excited about being in connection with you,
yes,
as a lender, is because you are just who you present today.
That's right.
You are knowledgeable, you're sincere, and you are willing to help and to, just to give the information that people need. And another thing is that you don't let people wait weeks and weeks before they get their pre-approval.
That's right.
And another thing, I can go on and on and on. We call Andy 12 o'clock at night.
And he'll answer in his PJs, I'm sure, with his wife on the phone, figuring it out.
On vacation.
At the Ozarks.
Yeah, visiting with his grandchildren. Everything.
Coaching a game.
Yes, everything. He's amazing.
Yes.
And we enjoyed this evening with you, Andy. And I hate to end, but it's the end of the program.
Yes.
And we want to thank Andy and Heather, Guaranteed Rate Affinity.
Yes.
And we want to thank our listeners and viewers.
Thank you so much
for participating this evening. And we have more to share. And Andy will be back with us again in the future.
That's right.
So just stay tuned and we'll let you know.
That's right. That's right. And guess what, Andy, you are phenomenal. We can't wait to do our 10 minutes more or less with you and Heather. And what is that? Well, that's a short show where we'll focus in on some of those items that Andy talked about. Down payment programs, right? And all the other amazing information that he's shared.
10 minutes or less.
That's right. Keep it short is what my mom's saying. Yes. But nonetheless, up next, we have an amazing speaker as well who is a credit specialist. His name is James Richardson. If you don't know him, you are going to be elated to get to know JR, as he's known, the credit man. And he's going to be talking about credit repair as from the standpoint of a specialist who does it for you. Yes. Right?
Now, when is that?
So that's going to be on this coming Monday, February 27th, from 6 p.m. until 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here in the same place at the Turnitin Realtors business page on Facebook and on YouTube. So make sure, if you haven't done so already, look out for the flyer on our page and register. And we look forward to seeing you then as well. And
wait a minute.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I can't go without saying this. Andy House, House. He was blessed.
That's not made up. That's my real last name.
This is real, folks. Yes. So remember that name. And
Andy House.
Andy House.
And Heather Mayfield.
And Heather Mayfield.
Thank you again.
Wonderful people in the business.
Thank you, ladies. It's always a pleasure working with you.
Of course.
And the same here.
Looking forward to the next closing and the next journey. The journey's always better than the end. All right. We'll talk to you soon. Take care and make sure you like our page, register, and we'll talk to you soon. Good evening.
Night. Bye, Andy.
Bye, Andy.
Bye, Heather.
Bye.